Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Beastly Eel, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the latest 3 episodes of Andor of Season 2. So this is year 4 in this universe, and we are seeing a lot. We are very much getting close to the beginning of Rogue One. So I'm very much excited to see where this is going to go for the last 3 episodes, and if we're going to get like an after credit scene or something else. I'll be very curious to see what happens next. But anyway, these 3 episodes were heavily important because we learned that Cassian and Bix are on the planet where we see our hero Cassian um, in Rogue One. So it's the main base of operations for the rebellion um, and the resistance, whatever you want to call it, all the above. And they're really trying to build themselves up. They're trying to get um, Cassian to move up into the ranks. However, it does not go according to plan because he decides to leave without permission, which causes a whole other plethora of issues. But anyway, he leaves and he goes to Gorman. Now, Gorman is the planet that we saw last 3 episodes, and apparently the Empire is looking at this planet significantly so. So originally we knew that the Empire was looking at it because they wanted the resources and the energy source that was inside the rocks, inside the planet. However, they were looking for an alternative so they didn't have to destroy a planet, mostly due to the fact that they were hoping if they could create it, then it would be a lot easier to manufacture and build a lot of it. However, they were unsuccessful, and now are going to be ordered to try to make it so Gorham looks like a threat to the Empire and will need to be taken out. And that's kind of their big push here. So what they're doing is they're causing fake terrorist attacks and bombings that the Empire is controlling to make against themselves to try to prove that the city or the I'm sorry, the planet is against them. Now, to be fair, there is a resistance against them. However, they're not the ones responsible for some of these attacks. So, one of the big things is they have the rebels kind of speaking to themselves and talking about how, they need to retaliate. Like all these bombs are going off. We can't allow this to happen. And one of the big things there is the leader is like, hey, or the elder, I should say. I shouldn't say he's the leader, but the elder's like, this is what this is, we shouldn't be doing this. They want us to do this. And then the guy who shot Vel's girlfriend, um, he was like, this is what the Empire wants, is us fighting each other instead of fighting them. So we need to really think this through. So they continue to have their disagreement and everything else, and they decide that they're going to come up with a plan to stop the Empire. So we then have, like I said, we have Cassian now on planet with the engineer that was with, what's his name? Guerrera. So he's there with Cassian because apparently he's hooking up with one of the one of the women part of the rebellion over there, and so that's going on. So Deidre is very much against what's going on Gorham, and but she's not going against the Empire. However, Cyril is very unhappy with what's happening and doesn't want any part of this whatsoever. Um, and it turns into a little bit of a fight between the two of them. There's a lot of physical altercations between the two of them. However, he finally just goes into the room that he was ordered to and waits there. Um, everyone in, give me a minute. Everyone on Gorham goes to the main square because they finally opened it up. And the Empire is now having a squadron come in that are basically the worst kind of people because they're going to be used as decoys and basically meat shields to cause mass hysteria to attack Gorham. Now, Deidre knows what's going on, however, she can't stop it, and Cyril is not happy about it whatsoever. So everyone goes to the square, including Cassian and the engineer. Cassian's thought, though, is he's looking to kill Deidre. That's his plan. He wants to kill her. However, it goes exactly how it was thought to. It was a trap to begin with. It turns into a massive blaster fight between the Empire and the Rebellion. A lot of people die. There's a fight between Cassian and Serral, which is by far one of the coolest fistfight scenes we see in Star Wars. However, the saddest and funniest part of the whole thing is Serral's like, I blame you for everything, and Cassian's like, I have no idea who you are. And it's sad and funny all at the same time because Serral thinks of Cassian as the reason why he's had such bad luck, and Cassian has dealt with so much that Serral doesn't even like register to him anymore, which I thought was interesting in and of itself. So then we have Cassian going, oh, so while he's off planet, um, Bix um, is kind of met with Vel. Vel comes to see her and explains that they need Cassian, and he won't do anything while she's around. And Bix's understanding of kind of what was going on in that sense. Um, so anyway, we continue to have the fight there. They eventually, Cassian and the rebellion destroy one of the robots, which helps out significantly. Let me tell you. It is what is his name? Of course, it's not going to show it here. That's going to bother me. But he's the droid from Rogue One. So one of the big things there is he destroys it or breaks it in half, and then brings it with him back to the planet. He gives it to them to repurpose and everything else, um, and then he gets ordered to go and um, dealing with going to Coruscant to work with Mon Mothma. So he goes, and we find out that Lutheran is trying to explain to Mon Mothma that you can't trust Organa's people because there's somebody who's against, who's not in the right, on the right side. And she's like, well, I trust him. And he goes, I'm not saying he's doing it. It's more the fact of we just can't trust it because we already know somebody's not in the works. Lutheran and Kayla seem to be completely out of hiding now. For the most part, it's looking. I'll say it that way. Um, because they're kind of out in the open doing what they need to do and not looking like business people right now. So Mon Mothma decides, thanks to Organa, to address the Senate on what happened on Gorham and how it was a tragedy and everything else. So while she's getting ready for the speech and everything else, she finds out that there's a bunch of sensors and recording devices in her room that causes her to, have to be careful on what she's going to say. She then begins to not trust anybody and gets ready to do the speech without any help. Lutheran realizes what's going on. He talks to Cassian. Cassian decides he's going to go up there to deal with it, and knows that there's a three-man group and everything else. And he goes upstairs. So he goes upstairs, gets to the room. Mon Mothma does her speech, which was an incredible speech, to be fair. However, the Empire is trying to shut off the broadcasting and is failing miserably. However, they were able to cut it off at the very end, and she goes down and everything else, and then she escapes. Well, she leaves the room. That's when Cassian's there to explain to her and uses the phrase, I have friends everywhere, and they begin to run away. That's when all of a sudden there's a group of two wanting to see her, and she's like, well, where's the third? And that's when things get a little awkward and turns into a gunfight, a blaster fight. Cassian kills the woman and runs out of there, and they begin to go. Turns out so they continue to get out of there. He gets her um, to Lutheran and Klyla, and they decide that Cassian's not going to be the one to transport her because they're going to use a different ship to get her on there to broadcast the rest of her speech. So Cassian goes back onto planet. He meets with Bix. The next night he wakes up and Bix is gone. Turns out she had left a message for him stating that she had to leave him, and because the the rebellion needs him and needs him fully aware of what's going on. And until the rebellion is done and the Empire is defeated, they shouldn't be together because they're just going to be a distraction to each other. So when the time comes and everything's fixed and everything else, she will gladly meet back with him again. But unfortunately for now, she needs to get out of there. So he begins to run and tries to figure out where she is. Unfortunately, all the ships left early in the morning, and then he gets told that the robot was being put back together. So he goes to see it, they turn it on, and the robot's working, and that, my friends, is the end of the episode. So where Mon Mothma went was most likely the ghost, which was seen in Rebels. So that's a great connection that we get there. I'm also kind of glad we're not getting any of the Rebel um, characters in this because I feel like it would be too nostalgic and ruin the moment of this show. But however, it's doing a phenomenal job at this point. I mean, these three episodes were definitely much more war driven, and I have never felt so depressed and sad during a scene of an entire city being destroyed of people we know very little about. And I think that's the biggest thing that gets me on that one, where they did such a great job of making us feel something for people in a whole society that we really didn't even know that much about before. Um, and then, having Cyril die was also kind of weird too, a little bit depressing and everything else. Because I wasn't expecting him to die that way. But it happens. But overall, I thought this was excellent, excellent 3 episodes. I cannot wait to see what happens in the next 3 episodes. I feel like there's got to be a lot of death, only because there's a lot of characters still who are alive, who are working in the rebellion, who are not in the movie. So I'm very curious to see who's gonna make it, who's gonna what's gonna happen to them, because I'm gonna be very curious on that front because they play such a major role right now, but obviously in the movie they do not. So we'll have to wait and see. But for now, let me know what you guys thought about these 3 episodes down in the comments below. Did you like them? Did you not? And why? And as always, if you like the content you see, please make sure to like and subscribe down below. Other than that, there's gonna be Beastly Eel signing out. Have a wonderful night. Bye bye.